Hello, and thank you for joining us. My name is Kelly Smith, and I am joined by my colleague, Dr. Kelly Blasko with Defense Health Agency, and you are tuning in for session 2 of our Relationship Real Talk series. And today we are going to dive deep into the first of 4 things that you should stop doing that will ruin your relationship. Um, you know, Dr. Blasko, before I get into the details and kind of provide an overview, is there anything you want to share?
Yeah, I just want to share that I've worked with military couples. I'm located here on Joint Base Lewis McChord and have done a lot of couples therapy for couples across their lifespan, new couples, couples that have been together maybe 3 or 4 years, and even couples that have been together for 17 years. So I'm hoping Kelly and I can share some of our tips on how to kind of create dialogue in the midst of conflict.
Yeah, so we know that many couples, this couple here, my partner and I, find it difficult to accept that it is not the presence of conflict that indicates a troubled relationship. We know that conflict is inevitable, and it's even a healthy part and normal part of relationships. But it's how you deal with that conflict that can potentially be problematic. Research, specifically the research of Dr. John Gottman, has shown that there are certain kinds of negative communication patterns that are destructive and signal the end of a relationship. In his research on marriage, he asked 2 questions. What makes a satisfying marriage? And then also, what predicts divorce? And we know that not all negative communication patterns are alike. And 4 of them stood out within his research, being the most destructive. And again, that big predictor of the end of the relationship or divorce or separation. And we use this metaphor, or Dr. Gottman and his team uses this metaphor of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And it describes these counteractive behaviors. And today, we are going to focus on defensiveness. We've all been defensive, and this horseman is nearly omnipresent when relationships are on the rocks. When things are a little shaky, defensiveness is going to be there. When we feel unjustly accused, we fish for excuses. We play the innocent victim so that our partner will back off. And many times, people become defensive when they're being criticized. That's me for sure. But the problem is that being defensive never helps to solve the problem at hand. So let's get into talking about defensive-ness, what it looks like, and how to stop doing it. So Dr. Blasko, what is defensiveness? Oh, wait. Before I toss it to you, Dr. Blasko, guys, if you're watching, please, if you have any comments, if any of this is resonating with you, please go ahead and type it in the chat pod. As we go through this conversation and this dialogue, we'd love for you to be engaged. So, Dr. Blasko, what is defensiveness?
That's a good question. And I think you started out with saying it's very easy for us to get defensive. And really, defensiveness tends to be a response to a perceived attack. Now, what does that mean? It's like, oh, my partner is saying something to me and I feel like they're attacking me, my character, my whatever I'm doing or whatever. So I'm ready to say, oh, wait a second, I'm not doing that. Or I don't know what you're talking about. Or I didn't mean it that way. So for the person that's being defensive, it seems like you're just you're not, there's nothing wrong with you. But there's a lot wrong with your partner. So it leads to a lot more conflict. And so one of the things to, as Kelly mentioned, that these 4 areas really are predictors for divorce. But the good news is that there are ways or antidotes or ways to solve not being defensive. And for this one, it's that you take responsibility. So if you're feeling defensive, you're going to not just go lash back to your partner, but rather think about what's going on with him or her, and what is happening right at this time. And so you want to really be part of the solution and also show concern for your partner, because there's a reason that they may be lashing out or kind of accusing you of something maybe that it may be completely different than what your experience is. So
Dr. Black,
go ahead. Go ahead, Kelly.
Okay, so I'm listening to you, and I know this may be different from what we have here of our key points, but that just sounds really hard to do.
Yes, it is really very hard.
Folks to yeah. So let's flush through this a little bit here.
So do you want to try the role play?
Yeah, okay. So we have a role play here for you guys of, and this is a simple role play. So Dr. Blasko is going to be my partner, and I guess we're just going to jump right into it, right? So action. Kelly. Oh, for you guys, Dr. Blasko, I don't know if it came up on the bottom, but Dr. Blasko's first name is also Kelly. So we're both Kellys. Just so you don't get confused. So Kelly, you are always playing video games as soon as you get home. I mean, always playing video games.
What do you mean by that? I don't always do that. Besides, you're always texting on your phone.
Oh, goodness.
So you noticed Kelly's response was almost was also kind of like, oh God, don't tell me about that. You didn't hear what I said, kind of thing. So the next time around, we're going to try to see if we can play it a little differently, so you can see how I will kind of take some responsibility and also delve a little deeper with Kelly to see what's going on for her. You want to try it again? Take two?
Yes. Okay. Kelly, you're always playing video games as soon as you get home. It's so frustrating. You're always on the video game.
I know, I'm sorry. Well, it really helps me unwind when I come home. And I didn't even realize it was bothering you so much. In fact, I know you've brought it up before, but I guess I'm wondering, are you okay today? Or is there something that you're feeling that happens when I start doing this?
Yeah, I'm not okay, because when you come home, I really want us to spend time together. It just feels like you're ignoring me by getting right on the video game, and we haven't had a chance to talk.
So you see, Kelly was able to then start the dialogue, and also I don't have to be defensive. She's really telling me what I asked her for. She's expressing a need, and she's we're not kind of attacking each other. So, but this is a very simple role play. Like Kelly said, that you get caught up in the moment and it just goes back and forth. So I just want to kind of normalize it for you. Don't be too hard on yourself. I think the first step is, if you feel that kind of like, oh, I'm feeling attacked, get used to noticing that. And then maybe you can really focus on the needs of your partner or spouse.
Dr. Blasko, I see here in the chat that Katie commented that defensiveness comes from fear. And, I have to agree with her. When I think about my own relationship, and I feel myself getting defensive, it feels like I've lost control. It feels like I'm not being heard. Can you talk a little bit about the other person's perspective when you find yourself getting defensive?
Yeah, so fear actually does link to being attacked, because, the stress response of feeling like you're in some type of danger, which causes fear, actually makes you the fight or flight. So of course you're going to fight, and in communication, in some ways, that's the defending against what comes at you. So that's how I kind of think about it.
You know, and I'm looking here in the chat, and Greg also makes a really good point that it can come from fatigue. And, you know, Greg, you were, it's like you're in my home almost, because that is true. God forbid, I have had a long day. The kids are, you know, getting on my last nerve. Work has been difficult. And then if my husband and I have like a heated conversation, or a conversation around a topic that we might continuously have to talk about, and I'm tired, I am a little bit short fused, and I find myself getting defensive very, very easily. But if I'm conscious about it and wanting to practice what Dr. Blasko is mentioning, and also another comment I see in her chat is about just to listen and to validate and to compromise. That really, I think, would help me, but you have to really be intentional. It's like you have to stop and slow down to be able to implement that, you know, feel what's happening in your body, to be able to like actually do that. So thank you guys for sharing that. But being tired does not help me be able to respond and be present in the conversation without being defensive.
But, you know, if you think about it, your tiredness, you need to have some rest or a break.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, I need you to stop, like, okay, I have a need. I'm really tired right now. Could we take a break for now and then maybe talk about it later? But you can state the need of, geez, I'm just really tired right now. And I'm sorry that I'm not totally present, but I know maybe a little later we can come back to it. You know, nothing ever has to really be resolved at that moment. And it's good to focus on creating a dialogue as opposed to an attack or defensiveness. So just think about it. Even if you feel like you're not having a dialogue, is a way to recognize that maybe there's defensiveness there.
So I know that there are some antidotes or solutions. Can we dive a little bit into those, Dr. Blasko? I know the first thing is really taking responsibility. Can you share with us any like examples in your work that you have seen of couples or people taking responsibility when they see themselves in this pattern of being defensive in their communication style?
Yeah. So first of all, to take responsibility, you have to know, like, what is your role in that what's going on. So, and some of that is also, how do you think your partner's feeling? But, you know, you can't always know what your partner feels, so it's good to ask. You know, I think some things that have come up in some of the couples is assuming you're spending, one is around finances. You're spending tons of money. Why do you keep doing that? And the partner would be like, you know, like, oh, I'm not. What do you mean? Or you just worry so much about money and there's nothing to worry. So it really dismisses.
And so it feels dismissive. Yeah.
Right. And so it's not taken into account that maybe, you know, maybe I didn't give the whole story. You know, we didn't get in as much money this time, or we had more bills than we planned on. And I'm feeling really anxious about that situation. So you can see the difference in terms of like really kind of accusing or even defending yourself, as opposed to getting to what that next layer is and why that might be anxious, or why that's coming up. Another example I see is with parenting, where one parent's like, you know, you're always letting our daughter do this when I don't really want her to do that. And the other person could be like, well, I think I'm doing a great job. What are you talking about? And but then the other parent's like, oh, you know, I've been here all day with her. I guess I'm just really frustrated, and I didn't realize it. And then you can start the problem solving or figuring out where we're going to. I mean, I think the one thing that I think is good about recognizing is that with the dialogue, you can then connect together with your heart and less pushing away. And I think that's what all of us really want, that type of connection. And so I think it really is important to try to tackle this so you can get that connection with your partner that you want so deeply.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more, Dr. Blasko. I think also another piece of it is that our partners want to be heard. They want to feel like you hear what they're saying, and not dismissing their concerns or their feelings. And there's a good point in the chat about, if you have this kind of discussion or conversation going on, before you get defensive, then to ask for clarification. Don't assume, don't set expectations without making sure you have an understanding, and then validating, your partner's feelings. And I could see honestly how that could really help within a relationship. Then you're able to connect like on a different level when that person feels like they're being heard. I mean, if you think about it, if you put the shoe on the other foot, when you feel like you're being heard by your partner, it makes things, a lot better between the two of you, and also creates a space for you to be able to have conversations like that more often, which ultimately strengthens the relationship.
Yeah, and also another good practice, and we talked about this in the first session, is about taking time outs and coming back to whatever the issue is, so that you can not necessarily so you can be less defensive or less accusing or whatever the scenario. And I think it really helps to do that. It's not always, I think, there's no, it's very hard. This is hard. Communication is hard, but it can be improved and it can be practiced. And so there's a lot of ways that we can really get to that heart connection by attending to some of this kind of communication.
So to kind of put a nice bow on defensiveness, there are two key steps. The first one, Dr. Blasko, that I'm tracking is for you to recognize when you are feeling defensive. Is that right? When you feel attacked, for you to kind of just acknowledge that, right?
Exactly. Okay, so you're playing video games again. Okay, geez, where did that come from? Or like, I don't know, like stress, you get that fight and flight or that fear that something is going to blow up. But then, Kelly, I don't know if you're going to say this, then I'm thinking, okay, I feel this way. What's my partner feeling, or what's going on for them? So just, either saying I'm sorry, or geez, I don't quite understand. Are you okay? That's always a good thing to really check in. And like I said, start the dialogue, and that can take you to a much deeper place.
So recognize when you feel defensive, like, am I being attacked? And then also it's check in with your partner to make sure that they're okay. So it's almost like being empathetic towards what they're feeling, and acknowledging also how you're feeling through the process. So am I tracking correctly?
Exactly. And I want to go back to what you said in the very beginning, is that by doing this, you have an antidote to, you don't have to get upset every time you have a conflict, that there's a way to then become closer from that conflict. And let's face it, conflict is there in your relationship for being tired or attacked or fearful. So definitely it can really help. And that's why we want to share all that with you right now, because we certainly want you as a part of the military community and you as an individual to really have healthy relationships and, again, have a close relationships and a connection.
Yeah, listening to you talk, Dr. Blasko, and I'm not going to go on and on, but it made me think about how each of us bring our own stuff into our relationships, and how stuff can trigger us and cause us to respond a certain way. And defensiveness to me is just one of those things that, bubbles up in us. I think based on things that have happened to us or how we've maybe unconsciously have defended ourselves or been impacted by things that have happened before in our lives. And it does take a certain level of consciousness to be able to acknowledge that and then have that dialogue with your partner. So, we want our military families to be strong. We want our military couples to be strong. And so this is just the first, actually, this is our second session, but this is the first of the 4 Horsemen of Apocalypse that we will be going through over the next couple of weeks. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in and for joining us to talk about defensiveness and how to address defensiveness within your relationship and within your communication styles. Dr. Blasko, did you want to leave our viewers with any last tips or strategies around defensiveness?
You can have fun just like Kelly and I did with role plays. It's kind of uncomfortable, but it can start a conversation for sure. So I just really admire the hard work it takes to be in a couple and just encourage you to try these different tips and see where it goes.
Yep. Thank you, Dr. Blasko, and thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you next Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or whenever you decide to watch this live stream, to talk about the second thing you should stop doing that'll ruin your relationship. I hope you guys have a great day.